Week 18 should have changed everything. With the season on the line, SHEDEUR Sanders engineered a comeback drive against the Bengals that felt like a turning point, one of those signature moments that franchises rally around. But instead of building on it, Andrew Berry pulled the brakes. No declaration, no momentum, just a vague promise to evaluate. For Tony Rizzo, that moment of silence said more than any. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. It screamed that nothing has really changed in Cleveland. Naming Sanders the starter wouldn't have guaranteed success, but it would have sent a clear message about vision and conviction. Instead, Berry's inaction resets the clock and invites the chaos the Browns can never seem to shake. Rizzo's frustration reflects what fans fear most, that even when the answer is right in front of them, this franchise finds a way to look away. The Cleveland Browns are proving once again that even when they stumble into something that actually works, they'll find a way to complicate it. This time, it's not a blown draft pick or a botched trade. It's a decision so simple, so obvious, that the fact they're refusing to make it has sent the entire fan base into a tailspin. SHEDEUR Sanders played 7 games. That's it, 7 games. And in those 7 games, he gave Browns fans something they haven't had since the 90s, a quarterback who looked like he belonged. Not just flashes, not just, well, he's better than the last guy. No, he showed command, arm strength, toughness, presence, the ability to win late. That Week 18 game-winning drive against Cincinnati wasn't just a highlight. It was a statement. And it should have been the moment where the organization said, "We're building around this kid." But Andrew Berry? No. He's out here doing verbal yoga, dodging the only question anyone cares about. Is SHEDEUR Sanders your QB1? We're evaluating all options. That phrase has triggered a full-blown meltdown in Cleveland, and Tony Rizzo absolutely let it rip. He didn't hold back. He torched Berry for what it really is, a pattern, a consistent, cowardly refusal to commit. And the worst part? He's right. This isn't an isolated incident. This is year 6 of Berry overseeing the quarterback position, and it's been nothing but chaos. Baker Mayfield, drafted with fanfare, mishandled and discarded. Deshaun Watson, a blockbuster gamble that turned into a public relations nightmare and a performance sinkhole. Behind every quarterback failure in the last half-decade, Andrew Berry has been a constant. But now, when he finally has a young QB showing real signs of life, real potential, actual upside, he pulls the same move. Sit back, deflect, and pretend like keeping all doors open is leadership. It's not. It's fear. And Rizzo called it exactly that. Because let's be real, what does this indecision actually accomplish? How is not backing your own rookie after a 7-game stretch that outperformed most quarterbacks this team has seen in years? A smart move. It's not about protecting Sanders. It's not about competition. It's not even about winning. It's about covering Berry's own back. Because naming SHEDEUR QB1 means taking a stance. And taking a stance means risking blame if it doesn't work. But this is professional football. That's the job. You don't get to sit on the fence while your franchise drifts further into irrelevance. What makes it worse is the context. The team just fired Kevin Stefanski after 6 seasons that never lived up to expectations. And now, the organization is in a so-called pivotal stretch. Jimmy Haslam himself said the next 120 days will determine the next 3 years. So naturally, the most important position on the roster, the one that literally dictates wins and losses, is up in the air? How does that make sense? It doesn't. It's dysfunction dressed up in business casual. Tony Rizzo's frustration isn't just about this year. It's about 2 decades of this. Every time the Browns have been on the cusp of turning the corner, someone in the building hits the brakes. And right now, that someone is Andrew Berry. Let's talk about the ripple effect of this indecision. Quarterbacks don't develop in neutral. They need reps. They need affirmation. They need to walk into the building every day knowing they're the guy. That confidence bleeds into every part of the performance. How they lead, how they prep, how they grow. But when your GM won't even say your name without attaching a disclaimer, what are you supposed to do with that? How are you supposed to feel like a franchise cornerstone when you're being treated like a placeholder? It doesn't just affect Sanders. It affects the entire operation. A new coaching staff is coming in. Who are they designing their system around? What kind of offense are they building? How do they establish rhythm when the quarterback situation is left deliberately ambiguous? That's not due diligence. That's wasting time. And in the NFL, time is the most precious resource you have, especially when you're rebuilding, especially when you just started to generate some optimism. And let's be honest, this fan base is on edge. They've been through every kind of disappointment. They've sat through busts, misfires, scandals, and heartache. And now that they've seen a quarterback who might actually not implode, they're being told to sit tight while the front office makes sure they're done waiting. Rizzo gave voice to that anger. He spoke for the thousands of fans who show up no matter what, who've watched this team crumble again and again, and who are now watching it happen again in slow motion. A young quarterback gives you hope, and instead of building on it, the Browns are hesitating. Again, it's not just poor management, it's a betrayal of the work SHEDEUR Sanders has already done, a betrayal of the fans who dare to hope, and a betrayal of the players, coaches, and staff who are waiting for direction that never comes. At some point, the Browns have to stop running from their own potential, because that's what this is. Fear of accountability, fear of being wrong, and it's killing any shot this team has at long-term success. SHEDEUR Sanders has earned this opportunity, not because he's flashy, not because of hype, because he produced, because he stepped into one of the most dysfunctional quarterback situations in the NFL and didn't flinch, because he showed growth, because he delivered. He's not just another guy in the room. He's your best option, and probably your best shot at stability in years. So why does this front office act like it's a coin flip? The Browns don't have the luxury of hesitation. Not after 25 years of failure. Not when the defense is finally taking shape. Not when you just wipe the coaching slate clean. Not when the owner has explicitly said the future hinges on this moment. And yet, here we are, with a GM who refuses to move. A franchise stuck in stasis. A quarterback with nothing but question marks hanging over him. And a fan base getting closer and closer to boiling point. Tony Rizzo didn't just go off for the sake of it. He went off because somebody had to, because the silence in the front office is deafening, because excuses are tired, because at some point, the people in charge need to be held accountable for what they refuse to do. This isn't about being aggressive. It's about being decisive. It's about showing your team, your city, and your league that you know where you're going, that you have a plan, that you're not scared to lead. But as long as Andrew Berry hides behind his executive vocabulary and vague timelines, the Browns will keep spinning in circles. Because in Cleveland, it's never just about one decision. It's about all the decisions that came before, all the ones that didn't get made, and all the damage done in the name of waiting for the right moment. That moment is now, and if the Browns miss it again, they'll have no one to blame but themselves. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should SHEDEUR Sanders be QB1 right now? Or do you think Barry's playing it smart by dragging this out? Hit that like button if you're tired of watching this franchise fumble every opportunity it gets. Share this with the Browns diehards who know exactly what this feels like. And subscribe. We'll be here for every high, every low, and every moment of madness Cleveland serves up next. There's a reason Cleveland fans feel like they're stuck in a loop. Because every time the franchise gets a shot at turning the page, someone in the building rips that page out and throws it into the fire. That's exactly what's happening right now with SHEDEUR Sanders. You know what the fan base wanted this offseason? A plan, not perfection, not guarantees, just a plan. Something solid, something that says, here's our guy, let's move forward. But instead of clarity, they got a carefully scripted dodge from Andrew Berry, wrapped in the same corporate language that's kept this team frozen for over 2 decades. We're evaluating all options. That phrase alone should be retired from Browns HQ. It's not leadership. It's a default setting. It's what you say when you're more afraid of being wrong than you are committed to being right. And in a results-driven league like the NFL, that mindset isn't just soft, it's fatal. Tony Rizzo didn't hold back because he's emotional. He held back because this team still hasn't learned its lesson. After all the heartbreak, all the rebuilds, all the false starts, they still can't make the most basic, foundational choice. And this isn't just a front office issue anymore. This is structural, cultural. It's a continuation of a franchise-wide identity crisis that started the moment the Browns returned to the league in 1999 and never really stopped. Every GM, every coach, every new era, all of them ended up pushing the same narrative. We need more time. But time ran out years ago. This offseason was supposed to be different. Stefanski was out. The reset button was hit. SHEDEUR Sanders gave you something real to work with: poise, talent, leadership, upside. A rare combination in a city that's been surviving on hope and duct tape for years. And what does Barry do with it? He stalls. He does what this franchise has always done when faced with a high-stakes decision. He backs away and says, let's keep our options open. What options? More veteran stopgaps? A desperation trade? Another open competition that ruins the rhythm of a young quarterback's offseason? Because we've seen that movie. It ends with a team identity crisis by week 4 and another coach on the chopping block by December. And let's talk about that for a second. Coaches. You're about to hire a brand new head coach and possibly an entirely new offensive staff. What kind of message are you sending when you can't even declare who the quarterback is? What does that say to potential candidates? That you've got a mystery box at QB, and their job security will depend on guessing right? That's a nightmare scenario for any serious coach. SHEDEUR Sanders may not be a proven star, but he's the best developmental investment this team has had in years. You don't treat that like a coin toss. You treat it like a building block. Because if you're not building around a young quarterback with 7 games of legit tape, including a game-winning drive in the final week, you're not rebuilding. You're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And Rizzo made that point loud and clear, because he understands what Barry seems to ignore. Quarterbacks don't grow in ambiguity. They grow in structure, in support, in stability. And the Browns have never given that to anyone. They've thrown rookies into chaos. They've brought in washed-up vets to compete. They've patched over problems with temporary answers. And it's gotten them exactly what you'd expect. Nothing. So when a guy like Sanders shows up, handles the pressure, wins a game under real stakes, and shows flashes of long-term potential, you don't hesitate. You lean in. You build around him. You finally take a stand and say, this is who we are. But no. Instead, the franchise does what it always does. It blinks. And it's not just Barry. It's ownership, too. Jimmy Haslem made a big show about the next 120 days being critical. That this was the most important stretch in the franchise's recent history. That now is the time to get it right. But if that's true, why are they handing that responsibility to a GM who's never hired a coach and hasn't solved the quarterback question in 6 years? Why is a guy who missed on every other attempt now being trusted to make this call? And more importantly, why is he being allowed to avoid making it at all? That's the insanity of this moment. The person with the worst track record in this department is now holding the team's most important decision hostage, and the clock is ticking. Every day this drags on is another day of lost cohesion, lost preparation, lost identity. And Rizzo's right. This isn't just frustrating. It's insulting to SHEDEUR, to the locker room, to the fans, to everyone who's been waiting for this team to stop being a punchline and start acting like a serious franchise. Because serious franchises don't leave their quarterback situation dangling in midair. They don't act surprised when a rookie outperforms expectations. They don't respond to success with hesitation. They reward it. They invest in it. They build on it. What's happening in Cleveland right now is the exact opposite. A young quarterback did everything you could ask for. He performed under pressure. He carried himself like a pro. He gave fans a reason to care. And in return, the front office gave him nothing, not even a vote of confidence. That's not how you develop players. That's how you break them. And it sends a message to the rest of the league, too, to other young QBs, to prospective free agents, to coaching candidates, that in Cleveland, you can do your job well and still not earn belief, that even when you deliver, the The people upstairs will stall instead of support. That culture, that is what Rizzo is yelling about. It's not just about SHEDEUR. It's about the Browns refusing to evolve, refusing to grow, refusing to take even one step off the script they've been following since they came back into the league. And if they don't break that pattern now, it won't just be the season that suffers. It'll be the next 3 years, just like Haslam warned. It'll be another failed coach, another lost draft class, another reset. Because when you fail to make the obvious choice, you make the obvious mistake. So here it is, plain and simple. SHEDEUR Sanders should be QB1. Not possibly. Not depending on camp. Not if he wins the job. He already did. He already showed you he can handle the moment. He already proved more in 7 games than most Browns quarterbacks have in full seasons. All he needs now is the backing of the organization. The fans are ready. The team is ready. Even the chaos-fatigue media is ready. The only one who isn't? Andrew Berry. And if that doesn't change, and fast, then history will repeat itself. Not because it's fate, not because Cleveland is cursed, but because the people with power keep making the same mistake. At this point, even calling it frustrating feels like a cop-out. What the Cleveland Browns are doing or refusing to do isn't just frustrating, it's reckless. It's organizational malpractice dressed up in press conference niceties and corporate euphemisms. And Tony Rizzo isn't just reacting to a single off-season blunder. He's reacting to the pattern. The exhausting, deeply ingrained, rinse-and-repeat cycle that Cleveland fans have been stuck in for over 2 decades. Because every time the Browns come close to stability, every time they start to show a glimpse of forward momentum, something in the building snaps, and they revert. It's always in the guise of being thorough, always disguised as doing the right thing. But let's not sugarcoat it anymore. What Andrew Berry is doing by not naming SHEDEUR Sanders as QB1 isn't caution. It's cowardice. The team had clarity. They had a young quarterback who showed real promise. They had a closing week victory on the road against a division rival. That drive Sanders led to beat the Bengals, that wasn't luck. That was poise. That was presence. That was exactly what you want to see in a rookie quarterback trying to prove he belongs. And he did it in the biggest moment of his short season. He didn't collapse. He didn't panic. He delivered. And what did that earn him? A front office full of shrugs and vague language about evaluations. It's demoralizing. It's backwards. And it's the same old playbook that's left this franchise broken year after year. Think about what happens next if this continues. The Browns enter OTAs with no declared starter. Sanders splits first-team reps with some veteran. They bring in off the scrap heap. The offense has no identity. The new head coach, whoever they hire, is stuck trying to implement a system while simultaneously juggling an open competition. The reps are diluted. The trust isn't there. The scheme doesn't fit anyone. And by the time week 1 rolls around, nobody's in rhythm. That's not development. That's sabotage. That's how you ruin promising talent before it even gets off the ground. And if Barry's trying to protect Sanders by not giving him too much too soon, let's be honest. There's no protection in limbo. There's no growth in uncertainty. Quarterbacks don't develop in vague environments. They develop when an organization wraps both arms around them and says, "You're the guy. Let's ride." That doesn't mean you stop competing. That doesn't mean you let mistakes slide. But it does mean you stop pretending that SHEDEUR is just another name on a depth chart. He's not. He's the only quarterback in the room who showed anything resembling long-term potential last year. He's the only one who looked calm when things got chaotic. And he's the only one who gave this fan base hope. And you don't mess with hope in Cleveland. That's sacred territory. That's hard-earned. This city has been through more football trauma than most fan bases combined. The QB jersey with 30-plus names on it isn't just a meme. It's a graveyard. A warning. A reminder that this team has never known what to do when they get even a sliver of quarterback competence. Until now. So why is Andrew Berry acting like that history doesn't matter? Why is he ignoring the moment? Tony Rizzo went off because someone had to. Because fans are fed up with polite press conferences and trust the process messaging. This isn't a startup. This is the NFL. If you're not making bold, clear decisions, you're already behind. And if Barry thinks that staying vague buys him more time or keeps pressure off Sanders, he's missing the point entirely. This is pressure. This is instability. This is how quarterbacks get caught in the endless loop of prove yourself again, week after week, until they're either broken or shipped off to the next team that does the exact same thing. How many times have we seen this? Baker Mayfield showed flashes. They turned on him. Deshaun Watson was brought in as a win-now move. That blew up. Now, you got a rookie who isn't demanding anything, just playing ball, growing, learning, leading. And this is where you decide to pause. Why? There's no rational football explanation that justifies this. Not one. If you're trying to build something sustainable, something that isn't built on chaos and panic and last-minute decisions, then this is your blueprint. Identify young talent, give it room to breathe, and build around it. But instead, Barry is overthinking it. Again. And don't be fooled by the polished language he uses when he speaks to the media. Internal evaluations, organizational alignment, exploring opportunities. That's just code for we don't want to be held accountable yet. Because once you say, SHEDEUR Sanders is our QB1, that's a choice. That's a line in the sand. And if it doesn't work, it's on you. But that's the point. That's the job. That's what the city needs more than anything. Someone in power willing to own the outcome. Rizzo's outrage wasn't just about quarterback play. It was about accountability. It was about the culture of avoidance that has plagued this franchise since it came back into existence. And Andrew Barry, for all his strengths, is repeating the same mistake. Choosing ambiguity over action. You can't run a team like that. Not here. Not now. The stakes are too high. Haslam himself said it. The next 120 days are critical. This offseason will define the direction of the franchise for the next 3 years, maybe more. And if the man in charge is already blinking at the first decision, how can anyone have faith that the rest of the moves will be any different? It's not about being reckless. It's about being clear. The Browns have spent 25 years wandering through a fog of uncertainty. What they need now is conviction. And SHEDEUR Sanders gave him a reason to believe in something real. Not perfect. Not elite, but real. That should have been enough. That has to be enough. So here we are again. Another offseason. Another quarterback question. Another fork in the road. And once again, the Browns are hesitating. They're squandering momentum. They're undermining progress. And unless Andrew Barry makes the right call and makes it soon, he's going to lose the one thing no GM can afford to lose in this town. Trust. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Barry make the call and name SHEDEUR Sanders QB1? Or is there actually a case for dragging this out longer? Like if you're tired of waiting for this franchise to commit to anything, share it with the fans who are still holding on, still watching every move, still hoping this time will be different. And make sure you subscribe, because if Cleveland's going to keep making the same mistakes, we're going to keep calling them out one meltdown at a time.